Yeah, Portugal, Spain would be an easy place with some easy points. And it would knock those points off of Reichspakt too. So Reichspakt need to be really careful about foreign invasion. Naval invasion, which we have seen the Entente can do really well. Like, the Entente naval invasions they're proper scary. Meanwhile, Russian heavy tanks have now arrived in Petrograd and are starting to push Ukraine and Germany's units back again. Still nothing really protecting up here in Karelia, so Kola might well get taken. And I wouldn't be that surprised if we see Reichspakt taking up to, like, here, and then seeing another battle line formed along the Karelian lakes. Meanwhile, we saw a little Russian dip into... Oh no, this is a German counterattack. This is the Germans encircling and destroying units around Cherkasy, and the entire Ukrainian front is just being pushed forwards right now, which is going to be really good for the Germans, because this is all Ukrainian core territory. This is all factories and manpower that Ukraine is gaining again, now that they've abandoned the initial defensive line against Russia, because the entirety of the Reichspakt at the moment can focus on the Russians. Can I look at Australasia's production? No, I'm not allowed to look at production. Sorry. And I'm also somewhat reluctant to look at naval positions because it can give a lot of away. But I've been doing it for others, so I'll do it for them. They have 189 ships in just one giant fleet. That's not currently doing anything. Australasia actually has a much bigger navy than I realised. Mostly destroyers, though. I think they're just sitting here pumping out destroyers. But they've not really done much at sea, which is weird. Because when we were talking to Australasia before the game started, Australasia was absolutely bricking it. And there we go, America going to war with Somalia, so they're going to be wrapping up Somalia, Ethiopia, Eritrea to make Africa just an Entente playground at this point. And we are starting to see some Entente pushes into Syria. We have a South African naval invasion of Adana, which doesn't seem like it's going to get anywhere. Again, South Africa is not a player. And the Mediterranean raiding continues. Ah, here we go. Naval invasion. We have got the massive marine units of Brazil, of the USA, and of the French attacking into France and taking this land back for France. And all of the German heavy tanks, of course, are going to be busy over in Ukraine at the moment, and any of the gains that they made in Ukraine are probably about to be lost. And I need to flip over to here because we just missed... Oh, okay, it wasn't as big a naval engagement as I was kind of hoping it would be. But Sweden did lose a couple of ships there. But that was it. But yeah, this is definitely a squishy underbelly at the moment for the Reichspakt nations. Germany kind of floundering a little bit to find an answer to this. We have those crazy strong National France offensive going on, and National France... Oh no, that's France is France, right. National France is you. You still have the funky flag. And Somalia has called Ethiopia into the war. So America currently fighting on two fronts, effectively, but really this is the front that matters for them, because they are still making really good progress against these very squishy infantry divisions. And the French motorized rocket marine divisions especially are going to absolutely love this. Like, these are just infantry divisions and they just smoke them completely. Just look at the amount of soft attack they can bring to this. Look how quickly these units are just dying and just falling before the 800 soft attack, 900 soft attack that France is throwing at them. I'm absolutely in love with these divisions. They're fantastic. Oh, and he's an artillery expert. Maurice Grisot. Defensive doctrine. He hasn't actually taken combined arms expert or cavalry expert, mostly because... Oh no, he has a trait. He could. He's really close to getting infantry expert, although once he's mechanized everything, I don't know that he would need to. And the American heavy tanks have now arrived. And this has so far been a really, really nice push by the Entente powers, with Reichspakt not really being in a position to do much against it. And the French attack just goes on and on and on. Yeah, this is an actual Normandy, an actual D-Day. And so far it's going really well. Okay, we're starting to see the German heavy tanks and the Bulgarian heavy tanks appearing, which is going to be allowing Russia to potentially push back. So let's actually just flip over to Russia real quick, just so we can see what they're doing, because they're going to be facing off against basically no heavy tanks on this side. So they'll be able to push to the river, and I reckon that the gains that they made here will now be lost. And India sending in another huge wave of infantry. But so far the Entente is just relentless in their attacks against the infantry. It looks like the German attacks are coming up here to try and maybe punch across to Caen and cut off the northern front from the southern front. And these Brazilian marine units are taking an absolute pasting. Let's flip over to Brazil, because I want to know what those are, because they're not very strong. They are just marines and just artillery, so 40 combat with marine units. They're pretty good. I want to know if they've done any research on special forces. More than France has. I'm still astonished by how little France has done. Here's a question for you. This is something I don't myself know. Let's go and spy on someone else. I'm not giving too much research info away. Eritrea. You look like you're good. One to use for this, and Eritrea has in fact just done special forces. They are exactly the one we want to be looking at. These special forces buffs, does that apply to amphibious special forces? Amphibious mechanized and amphibious tanks? With the special forces supply grace? I would imagine it probably does. And what about the marines? Do the marines apply to that? I don't know. For the record, the ones I'm talking about are these, and these. Because I don't know. France is doing fine for oil. They are rebounding. We've got the... Yeah, the attacks up here in the north are really quite strong. They're going to be holding on to Paris really aggressively. We've got American heavy tanks arriving and kind of sitting on the sidelines. We've got American heavy tanks down here in the south supporting the French attacks. And I'm guessing that France is going to try to push across to here to then effectively cut off Iberia. And then the Entente can go and clear up Iberia too. They do need to be very careful that they don't just let this German counterattack in the north completely eradicate one of their front lines. How is the air map? That is a good question. Green air for the Entente, pretty much everywhere. Northern France, there is a bit more of a competition going on. But yeah, no problems in the south at all. Northern France is where it's going, and it is 11,000 aeroplanes versus 8. I need to see this from Canada's perspective, because then we can actually see the kills. Because that is a huge air battle going on right now. And of course they get all of the Britain's air bases. So they're actually in range. 92 for 76. So the Entente's aircraft are not as good as the Reichspact's, but they have a 2-to-1 advantage here. They can maintain this. And now they are actually killing more of the Reichspakt aircraft. 100% efficiency against 100% efficiency. They've got 100 detection against 98 detection. Kills of the support aircraft not as much. 72 to 63. I mean, this is really close. Superiority is 54% in favor of the Entente at the moment. Thank you for warm words on my island play yesterday. Oh, Ray, good to see you in chat. Yeah, no problem. Naval Island. I really like that idea. All amphibious units are special forces. Amtrak and amphibian uses special force limits, so yes they do. But do they get the marine buffs as well? Or is that literally just for the marine infantry? Yeah, I think it's just going to be the overwhelming number of planes here. I mean, it's roughly equal in terms of kill deaths. The Entente just has so many more. Like, they just brought in another wave. There's now 7,600 aircraft in this. And air superiority is 56%. So it is slowly ticking up in favor of the Entente. And the more of France they take, the more air bases they're going to get, which are close. And the more radar and stuff they can build. Although it does look like... Oh no, they're just level 2s. There's a little bit of radar coverage, but not a huge amount. Entente air training scheme for the win. Yeah, the Entente Air Force is just so overwhelming. Like, they've done a really good job with that. The Entente in general, like I did say at the beginning of this series, the Entente team are the veterans. They're the ones that I recognize from previous years. So they know how these tournament engagements go. Credit to where it's... Oh dear. Oh dear. Russia has made a major breakthrough through Ukraine. There is attacks going on all sides. The tanks, which were so badly needed in the south, had to be given up, basically, in favor of this. And one thing which I am a little bit surprised by is how few heavy tanks Germany actually has. In fact, have you lost them? Oh no, they got 10. Because these heavy tank units are a lot smaller than the Russian ones. Like, a lot smaller. And considering the sheer weight of industry that Germany has had for so long, I am surprised they have so few heavy tanks at this point. I don't know why. Maybe because of attrition losses or something. But Reichspakt have 1.1 thousand factories. Entente have 1.2? Yeah. And then CoPro have 1. So Reichspakt do have slightly more than CoPro, but Reichspakt at the moment are squeezed between the two. And I think that Reichspakt will ultimately come out of this the loser, because they're fighting war on two fronts. This is basically Endsieg World War II happening right now. And then I reckon it's going to be Entente versus CoPro, with Entente in the better position because they have simply taken more from the Reichspakt and Third International. It really depends on how quickly Russia can push now. And just how much Ukraine and Bulgaria can do to stymie them. Because what I'm expecting to see is the Bulgarian forces guarding Ukraine, while Germany focuses on the Entente's surge. And then we also have the Entente forces down here, which have their own American heavy tank divisions assigned. And this, in fact, is where the Bulgarians are. So the Bulgarians are worried about losing this region, potentially because of oil supplies. They have all of the oil in Iraq, which is currently fueling their efforts. In fact, if we take a look at the oil situation, Austria not looking hot. Austria's the air controller. That's really potentially bad. Ukraine is okay. Bulgaria is okay. Yeah, it's just Austria that needs to watch that. So if we again take a look at this, we can see that they have their 7,600 planes against the Entente's 11,000. And that means that they're not even trying to fight the air battle over here. They just have complete co-pro air superiority, which means that they're going to have complete cast superiority as well. Because the Reichspakt are throwing absolutely everything they've got against the Entente. They need more infantry in France. Yes, I agree. Entente need to be shipping in a lot more men than they have so far. Like, they are making progress, but that's mostly just because, A, they caught the Germans by surprise, apparently. And the air war it's not looking good. They're losing more planes now than the Allies, than the Entente, and their air superiority is slowly but surely dropping, 40%. Not a fan of how Hard to Find 4 multiplayer devolves into who's got the more heavies. Yeah, that's true. Need to be without Hard to Find now. See you around. Thanks to everyone for showing interest in the tournament. See you, Ray. And thanks again for doing an awesome naval island and for sticking with it, even after you were occupied and after France stole Gothenburg back from you. It was fun to watch. $80 losses against 40. They're out. 100 losses to 40. Austria's nightmare has taken place. 100 losses to 40. And this is when the Reichspakt Air Force just starts dropping out the skies. Because they're out of fuel. Austria is completely out of fuel. And they just gained an influx from someone. 140,000 came in from somewhere. But they just lost probably 200 to 300 planes in the couple of hours that we were just watching there. And it has equalized again, but even that 150 fuel, which is half of their storage, is only 17 days worth. Finland has just capitulated, so that is the Reichspakt holdings in Finland, and now Russia can focus entirely on Sweden and entirely on Ukraine, and Ukraine is now starting to, I was going to say starting to falter in certain areas, but actually they are still holding on to the Chernigov salient. A couple of Ukraine's forces there being cut off. The Baltic line is looking pretty strong, and they do seem to have stymied the surge for a while. We've got some Swedish tanks coming into the region, and of course Sweden's going to be an absolute shadow of its normal self because they were under occupation for so long. And Sweden is going to have to do a lot of repairs, and also they just haven't had the industry to do a lot of the buildings and stuff they wanted, so that brief occupation is going to have done its job. Paris, meanwhile, has fallen to the Entente, and I was kind of expecting an Entente resurgence. Sorry, a Reichspakt resurgence here in the north. I thought they would push them to Le Havre, Rouen, and up to the Seine, but actually the opposite has happened, and the American tanks are just proving superior to the Bulgarians, although they are losing that particular engagement right now. I'm going to switch over to America because I want to have a look at your tank divisions. It is time for the how tonky are your tanks. I can't click on your tanks. Who was it? Hubner. Hubner still only has 7, but actually no, they've split in 2. So James, Gadesha, Ord are probably the ones in the Middle East, and then Hubner are the ones attacking here with their level 10 attack. Have they done the... No, they still don't have a offensive doctrine. So this is just straight up leveling. They could have 11 attack on those tanks, which is just yikes. 130 armor, 140 piercing, 50 organization. What the hell? They have switched to mechanized, that's why. And yeah, they have a couple of anti-air SPs just to make sure that air superiority can't tie them down. 1,200 breakthrough. These American tank divisions are terrifying. I don't think I've seen stronger than this. 1,800 breakthrough, 245 soft attack, 1,200 soft attack. I just saw there for a second. Like, these American heavy tanks are just unrelenting. And these guys just can't stand before them. And where the tanks aren't, the French are. And they actually seem to be pushing more towards the Netherlands at the moment and not trying to get this breakthrough across the country to then isolate Iberia, which I really thought they would be trying to do. Strategically, that feels like the right decision, to attack here down through Toulouse and just make this Mediterranean break-off and then just finish off Iberia, turn around, and then push for the Reichspakt. But I'm guessing they're a little concerned about the Russian push at the moment as well. Reichspakt had all to lose here, and they are losing it all. Reichspakt are very much collapsing hard, and this has really, really changed in a hurry. And there we go, the Dutch are now in... The French are now in Belgium, on the way to the Netherlands. The American heavy tanks still pushing across into Alsace-Lorraine. And they will soon be on the remnant... I was going to say Maginot, but there was... Was there a Maginot in this? I don't think there was. Not in the same way, anyway. And the American heavy tanks are starting to move south a little bit to go on towards Lyon, I imagine, and just taking more and more of France, because this is all French core territory. And as France takes more of France, their manpower is going to be ticking up, their industry count is going to be ticking up. They have all of this, and they are good to go. Meanwhile, the Eastern Front does seem to have stabilized. The Russian tank attacks seem to have stalled, and the infantry support that they've been enjoying for so long seems to have disappeared. Where are the Chinese? Where are the Indians? Like, the southern quadrant's pretty well protected, but they need way more infantry in this. I'm guessing it's a supply... Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's why they aren't here. Because they can't supply them. Because that's going across the Pripyat marshes. And that's not a pleasant place to be. Especially not because we are now in April, and this is mud season. So the Eastern Front is going to effectively stall for a bit now. Unless it's going to be just infantry attacks, because they're going to be suffering huge amounts of attrition if they do attack this. Because mud gives 70% attrition. It's not toned down like it is actually in vanilla. No, Black Ice. Black Ice it hasn't toned down. And there we go. The Netherlands is starting to be liberated. The Netherlands in this, I think, is an Entente nation? No. It's going to the Dutch East Indies. Which are Entente. Well, that's interesting. Oh, the Dutch East Indies still a Dutch puppet? Even though the Netherlands is dead. Oh! Wilhelmina fled to the Dutch East Indies. I didn't even know you could do that. Interesting. Yeah, the exiles arrive, only man in the Dutch government. I didn't know this existed. That's cool. I might need to do a reconquest of the Netherlands as the Dutch East Indies now. And they lost Java, so they were never able to do all of this. Hang on. Wrong nation. Still wrong nation. Where's the Dutch? There we go. Yay! They get Helfrich! And he is not the submarine commander for reasons. Okay. I needed to know. He's not as good in this as he is in vanilla, but it's still frickin' Helfrich. And I'm guessing that the Dutch East Indies have a decision to retake the Netherlands? Like, how does that work? Come on. Thank you. No. Okay, I don't know how that works. How was the battle for Britain? Did the UOB end siege? Not really. It was a bit of a wet noodle, to be honest. As soon as the marine landings happened, it was over. But yes, Brazil currently liberating the Netherlands alongside some Dutch Marines, American Marines. We've got surrounds, but these are all just infantry, they're not tanks. Don't know where the German tanks are at the moment. I would imagine they're probably trying to stall the Russian attacks. And then we've got the very, very optimistic Sicilian attacks going on. In fact, if I was the Entente right now, I would throw a ton of infantry and the heavy tanks at this, and France needs to back the hell out and attack down here from Corsica. Because I'm betting you that they have no garrisons down there. because they moved all of those troops to try and stop the naval invasion. So with a little bit of careful repositioning, or possibly go for Iberia, do a naval invasion down here. Try and get Gibraltar, so then you can get the Entente fleets through here, and then actually do multiple attacks, either in Italy, South France, Austria, Balkans. Opens up the whole thing. And there we go. The Netherlands is almost fully restored at this point. I wonder if there is an event or something to let the Dutch return. Group C, Third International, just won. Interesting. Was Helfrich the guy who sank a bunch of Japanese ships? Yeah, ship a day, Helfrich. He has no hat. Of course he doesn't. This isn't Kaiserreich. It's hatless Reich. The Kaiser apparently doesn't approve of hats and has removed them from everyone. Meanwhile, we are striking deep into Germany proper with the Rhineland now coming under significant threat. We've got the German tanks are trapped and they are getting overrun by the Americans right now. Oh no. Oh no, oh no. Yeah, the American armor. That's 5 heavy tank divisions, and they are just being obliterated by the American. And that's it. Germany's dead. They just lost all of their heavy tanks. And that's why you put your tanks in a field marshal, Germany. I mean, it's not why that is, but still, put your tanks in the field marshal. There's no reason not to. Oh no, they had the tanks in the field marshal, they just didn't have anything else in the field marshal. Like, just, he doesn't have a single field marshal right now. Albania declared war on... Oh, you know things are bad when Albania decides to go after you. Yes, Albania. Oh, that's beautiful. Backstab of the century. The day that Germany lost their tanks was the day that Albania declares war on Bulgaria. Oh, I love it. I'm so glad I saw that destruction of their armor. So Russia is now just going to roll over across them, completely unopposed. Problem is, I don't think the Entente have enough infantry to open another front. I'm a little bit surprised that they have as little infantry as they do. I mean, I guess that the Entente has the problem where they just... The only one of their nations that has manpower is America, and America's industry needs to be focusing on heavy tanks and mechanized. What's Japan up to? Japan is not doing a lot. Japan is sitting here sweet with their 1 unit of marines and lots of planes. Japan has a lot of aeroplanes. Although they're only at 7,000, like the Entente Air Force is just so massive that pretty much everyone is just going to super struggle against them. They're up to 18,000 fighters. Jesus.